Hi everyone. I want to go through the steps of setting up your telescope so that you can do some astrophotography. I want to show you here on the table the different things that you're going to want to have right at your disposal. You're going to want to have, of course, your scope itself. This is the mount. You're going to want to have your camera ready, the power that will supply to your mount. A couple pieces here, I'll be talking about those a little later. Your Baton Off Mask. Of course, you're going to want to have your laptop computer. Have a weight here that we're going to put on the mount, and some eyepieces. Okay, so I also want to point out to you that if you see down here at the bottom, I have an extension cord, and you don't want to take something like this for granted, because right now, with it being daylight, you can clearly see it and you're going to step over it, but at nighttime it's going to be quite dark, and if you don't lay it out exactly where you know it's going to be and flat, then you can end up tripping and falling and hurting yourself, and you don't want to do that. Down here I have a multi-plug extension, nice little container to keep some of my pieces in, and over here we've got the tripod, and of course we got the table. You're going to want to have a table to put your things on. Make sure that it's secure enough to carry the load of the weight of all of the items on here, and a chair. All right. So you want to make sure that when you set up your tripod that it is stable and it's level. All right. So here on the brick pavers, you could see that it would be very easy for me to put one of the legs in the grooves, and that could present a problem with your balance. So make sure if you're putting it on brick pavers that you're actually getting it on the bricks, and pull outward and make sure that they are extended as far as they can go. That will become very important when you put the mount on. So I'm going to go ahead and lift up the mount. For those who are unfamiliar with mounts like this, they are extremely heavy. This weighs about 50 pounds. Okay, so you're going to need the strength in order to put it on here. And when you put it on, you can see this little bar that sticks up, and you can see underneath here. So what you do is you line this up and you put it right down, and it goes right into place. And make sure you hold it, because it's not stable, it's not locked in at the minute. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up the eyepiece holder, and I'm going to start to crank this counterclockwise, and what it's doing is it's threading into the bottom of the mount. So I'm going to tighten that. There's one here at the bottom as well. You're going to want to tighten both of those so that they're very tight. Now, word of warning, if you didn't extend the legs fully out like I did a moment ago, you're going to be here for quite a while doing this, because after you get it to a particular tightness, it's going to force the legs out. So if you pull the legs out before you put the mount on, you're not going to run into that problem. All right, so right now I've got both of them tight. You have two knobs on the side here. You want to make sure that you make them tight as well. Now your mount is securely mounted onto the tripod. Once you have the mount on the tripod, what you want to do is look at the built-in leveling device or indicator, which is on the side of the mount. Just look at the liquid bubble that's inside and make sure that it is inside of the black circle. All right, I want to go ahead and release the weight holder here using this crank, tighten it up, and then you want to place the weight on the extender, pull it up, tighten this up, and then you have what's called a toe saver. And it's called a toe saver because if you didn't have this and you didn't have that tight, you could theoretically have your feet underneath this, and if this thing falls flat down, it's not going to be a good day. So this toe saver will save your toe in the event that for some reason this comes loose and falls. It will fall on the toe saver rather than the ground. All right, now the next thing is putting the actual scope on the mount. So up here at the top, you have these two knobs. And what you're going to do is, looking at the bottom of the mount, at the bottom of the scope here, you see these two bars, and they simply slide right on like this, and then you tighten them up. All right, so that's the majority of the hardware for setting up the telescope. All right, so the next step is to connect the USB line that goes from your mount to the back of your computer using a USB port. Just plug that here in the back of your computer. And that's how you get your mount to move when using your computer and computer software to drive your mount. You will see here on the side of the tripod that there is a scanning device that, instead of moving your mount using your computer, you can use this instead. And what I would have done is I would have connected this to the mount, turned it on, and then I can control what I want to find using this. But when you're doing astrophotography, you're going to want to have a line connected to your computer. The other thing, of course, is you need power to your mount to make it operate. So you're going to plug it right in here and to your power source down here. Now, if you are not working in an area where you have you have access to power, then you're going to have to use some type of a battery to operate your mount. But here I'm using electricity right off of my house. Okay, the next step is I'm going to put in one of these couplers right here, and then I'm going to put in this arm piece. Nope, sorry. I'm going to put this first. This allows me to connect this to this, and I'm going to tighten this up. What I'm doing is I'm putting in an extension, and I need to put in the extension bar in order to use my eyepieces. Okay? When you're taking pictures with your camera, and I'm going to show this to you in a moment, you're going to want to remove this extension piece, but the extension piece must be in when using your eyepieces. All right, so in order to put in my eyepiece, I'm just going to take this cap out. I'm going to take the cap off the bottom of the eyepiece. I'm going to slide it in here. You always want to make sure that you tighten up all of your tighteners and fasteners so that nothing comes loose. Okay? And so all I have to do is take off the cap, and my eyepiece is now available for me to do my star alignment, and I could continue to use my eyepiece if I only wanted to do observing and not astrophotography. But the point of this video is to talk about. So when initially doing your setup, what you need to do is get your telescope aligned with Polaris, the North Star. At least we're speaking about the Northern Hemisphere here. There are two things on your mount that you're going to use in order to do that. You have these two here, and you have these two here. These will be adjusting both for your right ascension and your declination. So again, using these two knobs and using these two levers, you will be adjusting them to align with Polaris. All right, I'm going to start my polar alignment, and I pulled up an app that tells me where I need to align my telescope, and so I will be lining it up where the dot will be right at the bottom, which will be right there. And so when I'm on my telescope looking through my viewfinder here, I'm going to be looking to see if I can find Polaris, the North Star. And once I do, I will be using these knobs here and these here to adjust it so that Polaris is showing at the same point on the circle there as it is here. Okay, so what we need to do is I need to remove the eyepiece and prep this with my camera for astrophotography. So I'm going to loosen this up. I'm going to take this out. I'm going to immediately replace the caps on both ends. You want to do this because you don't want to put these things just anywhere and dust will start to accumulate on them. At nighttime, dew might accumulate on them. That's something you definitely don't want to see happen. So go ahead and put this away. It won't fall, it won't break. It's in its nice protective case. Okay, get it out of your hair. All right, and then I need to loosen this and I need to remove that. I'm going to need to remove the coupler. As I stated earlier, I need to remove this extender because we're now moving to astrophotography and not just basic viewing. You need the coupler in when doing viewing. When doing astrophotography, you need to take that out. I'm going to put this back on, put this in. Again, always make sure that you have a very nice tight fit. Don't want these to be loose and then falls on the ground and you end up breaking your camera or an eyepiece. Here I've got my camera. I'm going to remove the lens cover. You have a special adapter that you need to put on the camera. Clicks into place. And then you slide that right where the eyepiece would go. And again, make sure that you tighten it down. The next step is connecting your camera to your laptop. And so you have to have a special cord for this. You find the correct location to plug it in. And then you take the cord and you plug it into your computer. Notice that the cords are relatively long, which is a good thing. And the reason that they're long is because when you start moving your mount and your scope starts to turn in many different directions, depending on what you're trying to image, you're going to need that space because this could end up over here. And so you need all of that extra cord. And that's why when you set up your table, you want your table relatively close to your telescope so that you don't use up all of this cord just because your table is far as at a distance. But also keep in mind that you don't want to put your table too close to your telescope, because if I had it right up against it and I decided that I wanted to image something over here, what could happen is the telescope mount would turn and this would end up in the table, and you don't want that. So I would say, you know, maybe 3-4 feet, maybe 5, maybe 3 to 4 feet is the right amount of distance that you want to have your table away from your telescope. So I'd like to talk about this instrument. It's called a Baton Off Mask. It's named after the gentleman who invented it. This is definitely your friend when it comes to astrophotography, because this makes focusing your images very, very easy. All you have to do is, once you are in the process of doing your star alignment and you have your star alignment all completed, the next thing you want to do is focus your camera, because if you're taking pictures and they're out of focus, you're wasting your time. So it's very, very easy to use the Baton Off Mask. All you need to do is, if I was using it on my telescope here, first of all, I would extend, let me go ahead and take off the cover first. I would extend what's called the dew cover and then put the Baton Off Mask right on top, just like that. Okay? And then when you are looking at your stars on your computer, what this will do is it will create a series of crosses that go through the stars, and you will be able to tell when it's focused and not. All thanks to this neat little device, the Baton Off Mask. Now I have my telescope aligned with Polaris, and so I'm going to come back to my computer and open up a software program called Stellarium Scope, and this will allow me to control my telescope with my laptop computer. I'm going to unpark it and I'm going to start tracking. Okay, I have done my star alignment, so now I am ready to move to the next step, and I'm going to open Astrophotography.
Deep sky clock event closing.
And that's how I
Camera connected.
Operate my camera from my laptop. And let's see if I can do a live view. Okay, I have my Baton Off Mask on, so now I need to do my focusing. I am going to zoom in on the star that I am focusing on. And I'm going to do the focuser on the camera. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to take my first shot. This will be a 90-second exposure.